Alex, and welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you part 1 of my series wrap up for 2024. Today I'm going to be going through series that I have DNF'd, series that I have started or made progress in but I am not up to date on, series that I have completed, and series that I am up to date on. We're going to start out with the DNFs, get the negativity over and done with. I have 8 series that I started this year and have DNF'd. I'm not going to be continuing on. Sometimes I DNF'd the first book and sometimes I read the first book but have no intention of continuing. The first series that I DNF'd in 2024 is the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks, with the first book being The Black Prism. I DNF'd this book, so I didn't even finish book 1. I picked this up from a charity shop because I was hesitant to pick it up because I didn't think I would enjoy it. So it's really entirely on me. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Night Angel series by this author, and similar problems that I had with that series persisted in this one. One that I was really surprised I ended up DNFing is the Thomas Cromwell series by Hilary Mantel, with the first book being Wolf Hall. I read this as part of a buddy read over on the Brothers Gwyn channel and I was really excited for it, but I just found that I was rather apathetical about the story once we got past a certain point. This is the life of Thomas Cromwell and I was interested in everything prior to him being a key figure in the Tudor court, but for me that happened way too quickly, especially for this being a trilogy. I would have liked the first book to be focused almost entirely on him prior to being such an important figure in this time period, which we didn't really get. So once we got past that part, there was very little that was new to me. So it was just a story I know really well, but from a different perspective, and that was therefore of little interest to me. I probably would have still enjoyed it more had I have liked the writing style, but I really could not get on with the writing style either. I did finish book 1, but I have no intention of continuing. The next series that I DNF'd is I DNF'd book 1, but I think I was just in the wrong headspace, and it is one that I would potentially come back to at some point, and that is Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. This is one that should be right up my alley. It should be one that I really enjoy reading, but for some reason I just really wasn't connecting with anything. I was struggling to visualize things. I was struggling to care. I didn't really see the point in continuing at that moment. This is one that is more like a soft DNF. This one may crop up in another year's video in a more positive sense. The next one that I DNF'd was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I like cozy fantasy with stakes. For example, the Miss Percy's Pocket Guide series I really enjoyed. I just didn't like Legends and Lattes. I found it trivial and boring and there was no point in my reading it. For that book, I may as well have just picked up a contemporary. There was no need for it to be fantasy. And while I understand the appeal and I understand why people like this book and this genre that is thankfully blooming, so we're getting even more new varieties of books within the genre, this particular installment just really wasn't for me, which is a shame, and therefore I will not be picking any further books that are in this world up anytime soon. The next one that I did read the first book, but I have no intention of continuing the series, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is another one that I thought was fine. Like, I enjoyed it well enough, but I think it was fine as a standalone. I definitely don't need to be spending any more money on these books when it was okay. So I have no intention of picking up the sequel. Another one that I did have a lovely time with, but have no intention really of picking up the sequels. Maybe if they crop up, they work well for a prompt for a readathon and they're free, because the first one was free on Amazon, is The Witch of Edgehill by Melissa Erin Johnson. This one is one that I did have a fun time with, and like I said, I have no objection to continuing. It's just not one that I will seek out to continue unless I am kind of prompted to do so in some other way, shape or form. It's unlikely I will progress in this series. Another one where I did like the first book well enough, I have no issue with it, but again, I definitely am not going to be seeking out any more books in this series, is After the Rift by CJ Archer. I have a different book by CJ Archer, so maybe if I end up falling in love with CJ Archer's books and want a fix, then I might come back to this one, but I can't really see very many circumstances in which I would gravitate specifically towards this. And the last one, where I do have a physical copy somewhere but I have misplaced it, is the Reapers series by Alden Bell. This is one where I read book 1, I kind of considered DNFing it and then I didn't, and then it was meh, and I should have just DNF'd the first one, so I definitely am not going to pick up more books in this series. It is a shame because I can understand the appeal of it, it just doesn't appeal to me personally, and therefore I shall not be proceeding with it. Now getting into the series that I have ongoing. So these are series that I have either started or made progress in, but I am not up to date. So there are other books out in this series that I have not read, but I do plan on reading. The first of which is a series that I started all the way back in January, and that is the Trajano series by Santiago Posteguillo. I read the first book, which is Los Asesinos del Emperador, or The Assassins of the Emperor, and this one is a Roman-inspired epic historical fiction in which we are following the rise of the Roman Emperor Trajan. So I am excited to continue these. They are very hench. They're ones that I just had in my jars, and I haven't really been using my jars in the latter half of the year, so it's had very little opportunity for me to continue. I have no objection to continuing. I'm excited to continue. I really find his writing style super compulsively readable, so it's kind of my bad that I haven't continued this one. One that I am slowly working my way through, and I cannot do more than one a month of these to save my life, is the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I have read the first 4 books in this series now and plan on continuing throughout 2025 until I finish them. I just am going at a slow and steady pace because I'm not enjoying them enough to be like, yes, let's binge read this series, but also I'm not hating them enough to DNF, at least at the moment. Another one that I am just every now and then I'll pick one up. I don't love them, but I am happy to continue reading them, is the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. I assume that eventually I'm going to get on that Terry Pratchett train and I'm going to love them more, but the first few are a bit rough. I did only read one Terry Pratchett book in 2024, which was the 3rd book in this series. So while I am enjoying my time with this series, they're not ones that I need to read on a super regular basis, and I am fine with that. So more progress will be made. I don't know when. One series that I did start and then the sequel came out towards the latter end of 2024 and I simply have not gotten to it yet is the Chaos series by A.E. Cosby. This is a romantic erotica sci-fi fantasy. The first book, Chaos Welder, I did really enjoy, and it was good, like romance erotica fix to have on occasion, and we have plus size protagonists and it gets poly and it gets a bit BDSM, and I am excited to continue. I just didn't get to it in time for the end of the year. Another one that I am just working my way through, a book almost every month. It's not exactly every month, but a book almost every month, and if not, I at least read a short story in this world, and that is The Cosmere by Brandon Sanderson, namely that I started Stormlight Archive, and this one is eventually going to be a 10-book series. At the moment we have just finished the first arc of the 10, so the first 5 books. This is the first book, The Way of Kings, which is all of the books are split in 2 in UK paperbacks. So far I have read the first book, but in 2 halves. I plan on slowly continuing my way through the entirety of the Cosmere, which inherently means that I will be working my way through the rest of Stormlight. They're ones that I am enjoying well enough that I am okay continuing, but not ones that I find so compulsively readable yet that I want to read them all back to back. One where I did end up reading 2 out of the 3 books is the Best Hex Ever series by Kate Johnson. I read books 1 and 2, which are Hex Appeal and Hex in the City, but I did not read the 3rd book, which is Hex and Hexability. So I don't even know if that is the entirety of the series or if more books are supposed to be coming out. They're romance but witchy, and I had a good time with them, and they're fun, and they're just really easy light reads and exactly what I want when I'm a bit brain dead. So I am planning on continuing no matter how many come out. One that I did start and have just kind of recovered from having started it and I'm excited to read the sequel to is the Tainted Dominion series by Crystal Matar. I read this first book, The Legacy of the Brightwash, in November as part of my Esme vlog, so I am excited to continue this series, but obviously reading this at the end of the year, and the next one is over 1,000 pages, so I know that I wouldn't have been able to get to it in December, but I will be continuing this in 2025. Another one that I read for my Esme vlog is the Blood and Steel saga by E.J. Double. I read the first book, which is The Fangs of War, and I plan on continuing the rest of the series. I do own all of the books that are out at the moment. Again, I just read it in November, so I just haven't had time to continue the series at the moment. And the last one from the Esme vlog is the Riverfall series by Jacqueline Hagan, and this one I did read the Wickwire Watch. These will probably take me a bit longer to get to because I listened to the first one on audio. Would like to continue that, but obviously audiobooks are expensive, so I would need to work my way up to, okay, I need this kind of book now, and then purchasing it. But I am very excited to continue with that series. And the last one that I have on here on this section is the Brotherhood of the Eagle by Tim Hardy. I read this one for my Terry vlog in the beginning of December, so obviously I haven't had a chance to continue on, but it is a tetralogy that is concluded, so I am hoping that I will be able to finish out the series next year since I had such a good time with the first one. The next category is actually substantially longer than it usually is for me, and that is series that I am up to date on. I normally binge read, or at least I will have more books out in the series before I dip my toes in, so I've got something to look forward to on the horizon. A lot of these were sent to me by authors, or they're just ones that I have happened to start, and therefore I am now up to date. There are no other books out in this series at the moment, so as of 2024 I have read the only available installments in these series. The first one that I have is the Strange Frontier series by Jennings Zabrinsky, the first book, Troop of Shadows, and it is alien ninjas against cowboys in this fantasy world, and I really enjoyed the one and only full-length novel that is out. So then I did read the novella that is free on the author's website, which is Tyrant Fall. So I have read everything that is available so far in this series. If more comes out, I will continue. One that was sent to me by the author for me to review is the Starlight Jewel by E.L. Lyons. This is the first book in the Gifts of Oldtree series. It does have another new cover, which I think is stunning. I do actually like this older cover as well though. But this one is one that there is only one book out at the moment. The author has not said when the sequel will be coming out either, so at the moment I have read the only available volume. I am very, very excited to continue, and I hope that it does come out soon so that I can proceed to see what happens to these characters. Another one that was sent to me by the author that I am very excited to hopefully continue sometime soon is the Piece of Freysdale series by Michael Richardson, and this one was again sent to me by the author, and this is YA, and I haven't been reading a lot of YA, but I did really enjoy this one. It has a Norse-inspired setting with a very interesting magic system, and we have a very interesting society going on in here as well, so I am very excited to see where we go from here. I'm hoping that we will be getting a new book in the new year. Another one that was sent to me by the author after I won a giveaway was The Sea of Souls by N.C. Scrimgeour. This one is an epic fantasy, and it is the first book in, I believe, what's going to be a trilogy, and we have Kelpies and we have maritime setting. Hopefully get more books in this series come out in the new year. The author is very consistent and prolific, so I imagine it won't be a hugely long wait. But I won a special edition that has this lovely printed hardcover, and it's also signed by the author. One that I started the series, and then the author has said that he's doing rewrites of this book before he continues the series, and that is the Godsbane series by Anthony Mitchell. This one is the first book, The Ember Child, and it is supposedly going to be a trilogy in which you get the same narrative but from different perspectives of this conflict, which I'm super excited for. There is Wolf Eater that is out in this world, but it is a standalone and it can be read entirely as a standalone. I have read everything that is available, not only in this series, but so far in this world, and I'm really excited to continue because it was really well written, but at the moment there is no news on a sequel. The next one that I received was another one I received from the author, and that is the first book in the Crocus series by Lumen Reese, being Witchwife. This was one of my favourite books of the year. I had an amazing time with this book. It is historical, sci-fi, horror, fantasy. It's got so many genres that I love all mushed into one, and I am really glad that I received this first book, and I am very excited to continue on. The sequel is set to come out in 2025. It says The Gravedigger Knight and the Sailor of Endless Seas is coming in 2025, which is the second book in this trilogy, so I am anxiously awaiting another book. Another one that I really loved was sent by the author, can't wait for this series to continue, is The Ghost of Ethiran by Aman J. Bedi, and this one, the first book, Kavithri, was kind of like a Indian steampunky poppy war, and I loved it so much. So many things that I love about the Poppy War were in here, but so many things about like really interesting world building, new discussions to be had, and I had a wonderful time with it, and I cannot wait for the sequel, which apparently is maybe coming in 2025. I don't know how many books are going to be in this series in total. I'm anxiously awaiting that sequel. And the last one that I have is I continued the Tanria series by Megan Bannon. I read the second book, which is The Undermining of Twilight and Frank, in 2024, which puts me up to date. The next book, The Undercutting of Rosie and Adam, is supposed to be coming out in 2025, so I will be able to continue on as soon as that comes out. And the last category that I have is series that I finished. So series that I had started in previous years, but I concluded this year. I have one honourable mention because I did read The River of Silver by Shannon Chakraborty, or S.A. Chakraborty, which is the short story companions that go with the Daevabad series. So while it's not actually a conclusion to a series, it is part of a series. So I thought I would add this in here because I have nowhere else to put it, but a bit more of a stretch. I finished the Keeper Chronicles by J.A. Andrews. I started the first book, A Threat of Shadows, last year, and then I proceeded with both Pursuit of Shadows and Siege of Shadows early on this year. I had a great time reading that series. I have a dedicated series review for it. I would recommend if you are wanting some epic fantasy that is almost a bit D&D and has a very interesting world. I had a great time. So I would recommend. It's one that has a sequel series, so I will potentially be picking that up at some point. Another one that I finished early on in the year is the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRue. I read the first book last year around Feb time, which is Her Soul to Take, and then I read the two sequels, which are Her Soul for Revenge and Soul of a Witch, both this year for Feb. Love them, love Harley LaRue, love anything that they write, and I will read everything that they put out because they're just the best smut that I have ever read. Another series that I did manage to finish is the Julia Domna series by Santiago Posteguillo. I read the second book, which is Y Julia retó a los dioses, or And Julia Defied the Gods, which is the second book in this duology. This duology follows Julia Domna, who was one of the most fearsome empresses of Rome. I really loved this series. I'm really glad that I'm working my way through Santiago Posteguillo. He writes really, as I said, compelling books, so I am excited to read other things by him, but this was a fantastic duology, and it was nice to be reading about a woman in charge, and not just this wonderful badass woman. She was also flawed, she was human, she was a mother, and there were so many things in there that I really resonated with, so I'm really glad I read it. I finished The Fractured Fables by Alex E. Harrow, for what that's worth. I read Spindle Splintered, I think last year, and then this year I read A Mirror Mended, and it was fine. Like, they're fine. I have nothing to say on this series. They're fine, which is a shame because everything else I've read by Alex E. Harrow I have absolutely loved, but these were just, I have no thoughts. And the last series that I finished is the Miss Percy's Guidebooks series by Quenby Olson. I read the last book in this series, which is Miss Percy's Definitive Guide to Dragons, and I loved this series. I love how it concluded. I have a dedicated series review for it. I would highly recommend you check it out if you're wanting cozy fantasy, if you're a fan of the Lady Trent series, if you are a fan of like Jane Austen Regency stuff, but you're also a fan of fantasy. The combo is wonderful. I'd highly recommend. Older main character, slow burn romance, top tier. And there you have it. Those are all of the series that I have made some progress in, DNF'd, or concluded this year. So let me know if you've read any of these and your thoughts on them. How did your series reading go this year? Did you complete some goals? Did you finish some series? Let me know in the comments down below. But I have part 2 for this coming at some point soon, in which I am going to go through all of the series that I binge read. So series that I read from start to finish, all within 2024, which is my preferred reading method. So there are quite a few series on there. So hopefully I will catch you in that one soon. Bye!